Imagine a quiet evening in Charlotte, North Carolina, back in 1997. The air is still, and the city is settling into its nightly routine. Little do the residents know, a plot is unfolding that will soon shake the very foundations of their peaceful night. On October 4th, $17.3 million in cold, hard cash vanished from the vault of Loomis Fargo and Company's regional office. Now, you might be wondering about the mastermind behind this heist. But this wasn't any ordinary criminal gang. This was a plot involving a vault supervisor, a girlfriend, an FBI informant, and a handful of others with motives as mysterious as the night itself. As the investigation unfolded, a tangled web of relationships, secrets, and unexpected alliances emerged. This was no ordinary crime. It was a tale of betrayal, love, and the kind of audacity that makes your heart race. It leaves us questioning. What kind of bold minds are behind these daring heists, and how do they manage to pull off such incredible feats? That's exactly what we'll be exploring in today's episode. So, let's dive into a world where the line between right and wrong blurs, and where the quest for fortune takes unexpected, thrilling turns. This is the story of the infamous Loomis Fargo Heist. In 1997, Charlotte, North Carolina was undergoing a transformation. It was holding on to its southern charm while rapidly growing into a bustling financial hub. Known affectionately as the Queen City, its banks were gaining national importance, and towering buildings were beginning to reshape the skyline, reflecting the city's ambitious dreams. Charlotte had a unique charm back then, a mix of friendly southern vibes and the energy of a city on the rise. Communities were close-knit, and people took pride in their neighborhoods. But beneath the surface, the city was feeling the strain of rapid growth. New businesses were flooding in, and life was changing, both in how the city looked and how people lived. Then came the Loomis Fargo Heist, disrupting Charlotte's sense of security. The city's usual calm was shattered when news of the daring robbery spread. This wasn't just a crime against a big corporation. It was a hit to the community's feeling of safety. Fast forward to today, Charlotte has continued to evolve. The banking industry dominates even more, and the city has become a modern metropolis. While people still hold on to their sense of community, memories of that night, when the city faced one of its biggest challenges, still linger. The Loomis Fargo heist remains a bookmark in Charlotte's history, a reminder of a time when everything changed. Understanding this backdrop is crucial as we dig into the details of the heist itself. In the early hours of Sunday, October 5, 1997, a call to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police set off a chain of events that would unravel one of the most significant heists in U.S. history. Tammy Gantt reported her husband, David, missing after he failed to return home from his job at the Loomis Fargo warehouse. When officers arrived at the scene, they found David's truck parked outside the warehouse gate, the chain-link fence wide open, and the warehouse's garage door ajar. Something was definitely off. A Loomis Fargo supervisor confirmed David's absence, and soon a disturbing discovery followed. The vault was locked, but all the keys were missing. So was a company van. As the magnitude of the crime became clear, the FBI was called in. The stolen cash, belonging to federally insured banks, totaled a staggering $17 million, mostly in untraceable $20 bills. The crime scene was puzzling. There were no signs of forced entry or violence, just an empty warehouse and a vault that had been cleaned out. Investigators scrambled to find any leads. Was David Gantt a victim? Had he been abducted? That fear lingered until they reviewed the security tapes. To their shock, the footage showed Gantt single-handedly emptying the vault, loading the loot into a van, and driving off. The heist had been pulled off with precision, leaving Loomis Fargo officials locked out of their own vault. The missing money, with its non-sequential serial numbers and unmarked bills, posed an enormous challenge for investigators. Outside the warehouse, agents combed for any clue the robbers might have left behind. This wasn't just a simple theft. It was a calculated act that left the city of Charlotte stunned and law enforcement with more questions than answers. The cat-and-mouse game had begun. After a weekend of investigation, the FBI was facing a major challenge. David Gantt, along with over $17 million in untraceable cash, had vanished. With a 24-hour head start, finding him became crucial. Agents began questioning Gantt's wife, Tammy, and his sister, hoping to gain insight into his personal life. Tammy painted a picture of a simple, hard-working man. Though they had some credit card debt, she couldn't believe he'd be involved in such a crime. She suspected he had been forced or even kidnapped. Despite extensive questioning, nothing in Gantt's recent behavior suggested he was planning a heist. He had been working long hours to pay the bills, and Tammy maintained a strict budget. There was no indication of a sudden financial motive or any signs of unusual behavior. To officially locate Gantt, his photo needed to be circulated in the National Crime Database. But first, an indictment was required. U.S. Attorney Mark Calloway expedited the process, securing charges within 48 hours of the theft. Operation Charlotte, as the investigation was now called, launched a nationwide manhunt. Gantt's face was everywhere, with authorities urging the public to report any sightings. Knowing he had a substantial amount of cash, the FBI expected he would need space to transport and store the money. Airports and bus stations were locked down, and rental agencies were scoured for any trucks matching Gantt's description, but nothing turned up. The FBI was in a race against time to track Gantt down and recover the missing millions. The media had picked up on the story, and the nation was hooked. Everyone was waiting for answers to the audacious heist that had left the law enforcement and the public clueless. Investigators recalled a similar case earlier that year in Jacksonville, Florida, where a Loomis Fargo employee had stolen over $18 million. Special Agent William Perry, who had worked on that case, knew the importance of acting fast. In that instance, the thief had stashed the money in North Carolina, so agents searched local storage units. But it was a dead end. The weekend of the heist had been complicated by the Coca-Cola 600 NASCAR race in Charlotte. Thousands of out-of-town visitors made it difficult to sift through potential leads. Concerns for Gantt's safety also grew. Had he been double-crossed? Was he in danger? Then, 2 days after his disappearance, a breakthrough came. A man mowing his lawn stumbled upon an abandoned Loomis Fargo van in the woods, less than 10 miles from the warehouse. Inside, investigators found something unexpected: $3.3 million in small bills. Alongside the cash were the missing security tapes, Gantt's Loomis Fargo-issued pistol, and both sets of vault keys. Why had Gantt left behind over $3 million? Had he panicked? Was he sending a message? Or was there someone else pulling the strings? With Gantt still missing and $14 million unaccounted for, the FBI knew this was bigger than just one man. Charlotte, North Carolina, a city built on finance, had just witnessed one of the boldest heists in history. But one question remained: who else was involved? The unusual intimacy between Campbell and Gantt raised suspicions, presenting a discrepancy the FBI found difficult to resolve. Doubts about Campbell's credibility lingered, prompting agents to scrutinize Gantt's phone records. Analyzing the logs revealed a shocking detail: calls made from inside Loomis Fargo to Gantt's cell phone during the heist, strongly suggesting collaboration. Further investigation into Gantt's pager records uncovered a recurring 3-digit entry: 143. The FBI deduced that someone on the other end of those calls was likely involved, adding another layer to the labyrinth of contradictions surrounding the case. As the search for Gantt and the missing millions continued, the FBI navigated a web of relationships, motives, and hidden messages. 1 week after the Loomis Fargo heist, agents anticipated a surge of tips following the broadcast of David Gantt's picture on America's Most Wanted. However, their expectations were dashed when an extended baseball game delayed the segment, leading to fewer calls than expected. With $14 million still unaccounted for, hope of finding Gantt dwindled as time passed. Determined to keep the case in the public eye, Loomis Fargo offered a $500,000 reward, which flooded the FBI with leads. A dedicated database was set up to manage the growing number of tips, ranging from reports of extravagant spending to possible personal connections to Gantt. One lead pointed to Eric Payne, who was reportedly living lavishly after the heist. However, after thorough investigation, the FBI found no direct connection between Payne and Gantt. Then, a crucial tip emerged regarding Steve Chambers, a resident of nearby Gaston County. Chambers had purchased a $600,000 home in cash, raising immediate suspicions. A background check revealed an erratic spending spree. He had acquired a truck, a BMW Roadster, and paid for numerous transactions in cash. While the FBI initially suspected the money was from illegal drug activities rather than the Loomis heist, they placed Chambers under surveillance. Meanwhile, in Cramerton, the Chambers family's sudden move into an upscale gated community baffled the locals. Michelle Chambers, Steve's wife, claimed her husband was a retired professional football player who had struck it rich gambling in Atlantic City and selling laundromats in Texas. These stories, however, failed to convince their neighbors. One of them, Mayor Kathy Biles, grew suspicious when Michelle consistently paid for every purchase using packets of cash, primarily in $20 bills. Concerned, Chief David Young of the Cramerton Police reached out to Mark Rossi at the Charlotte FBI office. Rossi revealed that the FBI had already begun suspecting the Chambers in connection to the Loomis heist. A deeper dive into Steve Chambers' background painted a picture of a small-time criminal with a history of fraud, bad checks, and minor run-ins with the law. Despite this, the FBI lacked concrete evidence tying him to the missing $14 million. As the investigation intensified, the FBI sifted through an overwhelming number of leads, trying to establish a direct link between the Chambers and the stolen cash. Several weeks after the heist, agents turned their attention to tracking cash transactions in Charlotte area banks. Their patience paid off when 2 suspicious activity reports, SARs, surfaced. One involving Michelle Chambers depositing an unusually large sum of money. Though the deposit itself wasn't illegal, it raised a red flag, prompting agents to place the Chambers under closer watch. By December 1997, surveillance on the Chambers intensified. However, their extravagant spending spree continued unabated. As Christmas approached, they purchased a brand new truck and a $43,000 diamond ring, both paid for in cash. Yet, despite the mounting circumstantial evidence, the FBI still struggled to find definitive proof connecting the spending to the stolen Loomis money. To strengthen their case, agents began investigating Kelly Campbell, Gantt's old friend, who had refused a polygraph test and displayed nervous behavior during questioning. Though no direct evidence linked her to the heist, her connections to both Gantt and the Chambers made her a person of interest. By early 1998, Campbell's continued interactions with the Chambers led to a significant breakthrough. In January, Michelle Chambers walked into a bank and deposited $88,000 in cash. However, she made a crucial mistake. She handed over money still bound by a Loomis Fargo-branded cash strap. Even more damning, the strap bore the handwritten initials of a Loomis employee, irrefutably linking the cash to the heist. Despite this critical evidence, the FBI opted not to make immediate arrests, instead hoping the Chambers would unknowingly lead them to Gantt. Their patience was rewarded when Kelly Campbell, in a wiretapped conversation, revealed she had recently received a page from Gantt. This confirmed that he was still alive. The FBI continued monitoring phone calls between Campbell and the Chambers, but much of their conversations were mundane, making it difficult to extract useful information. However, the situation took a dramatic turn when Campbell disclosed that Gantt had contacted her seeking more money, a surprising revelation, considering he had stolen $17 million. The FBI soon uncovered a sinister twist. Steve Chambers had no intention of reuniting with Gantt. Instead, he was plotting to eliminate him. Chambers and Campbell arranged to meet at their furniture store to discuss the plan. Meanwhile, the FBI, now armed with critical evidence, debated whether to move in immediately or continue surveillance in hopes of identifying Gantt's exact location. Their decision to wait paid off when they intercepted a conversation in which Campbell revealed that Gantt was hiding in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Surveillance continued, and agents soon confirmed that Chambers had enlisted the help of a hitman named Mike McKinney to carry out Gantt's murder. Realizing time was running out, the FBI sprang into action. On March 1, 1998, 5 months after the heist, federal agents tracked Gantt down in Playa del Carmen and arrested him without incident. With Gantt in custody, the FBI had finally unraveled the complex case. During interrogation, Gantt revealed how the heist unfolded. He had been convinced by Kelly Campbell to rob Loomis Fargo, with Steve Chambers masterminding the entire operation. Chambers handled the logistics, securing false identities, recruiting accomplices, and ensuring Gantt could flee the country. Their plan had been to lay low and avoid suspicion until the initial investigation cooled down. However, greed and reckless spending led to their downfall. As the FBI wrapped up their case, it became clear that what had started as a carefully orchestrated plan had unraveled due to arrogance, poor decision-making, and a critical oversight. Money straps that tied the stolen cash directly back to Loomis Fargo. Through wiretaps, relentless surveillance, and a race against time, the FBI managed to solve one of the most audacious heists in U.S. history, bringing all key players to justice. Unbeknownst to him, every move David Gantt made was caught on tape. Outside, the gang, anxious and restless, waited across the street, anticipating his exit. The plan was for Gantt to drive the cash out of Loomis around 5 p.m., but unexpected delays disrupted the schedule. When he finally emerged, Steve Chambers and Kelly Campbell tailed him to Reynolds & Reynolds, a printing company where Eric Payne waited with a rented van. Gantt handed Payne the key to the Loomis van, but a critical problem arose. They had no idea which key unlocked the vehicle. As the gang scrambled to find the right key, Gantt and Campbell drove off with millions in cash. Their problems didn't end there. There were no direct flights to Mexico from Columbia Airport. Making a last-minute decision, they rerouted to Atlanta. Meanwhile, the gang, still struggling with the locked van, attempted desperate methods to gain access. Ultimately, they were forced to abandon some cash, ditching the van and stashing the money in blue barrels. In Mexico, Gantt and Campbell briefly basked in their new fortune. However, trouble loomed. Gantt couldn't transport his full share of the loot and relied on the gang to send him cash. By the end of October, his funds were running low. Chambers, suspicious and eager to tie up loose ends, sent Mike McKinney, also known as Bruno, to deliver money. But McKinney had another task: to keep an eye on Gantt until the gang found the right moment to eliminate him. When McKinney handed over a disappointingly small packet of money, Gantt grew suspicious and called Campbell, realizing that his dream of endless riches might be slipping away. Gantt's situation worsened when a stranger in Cancun recognized him as the man who had stolen $20 million in North Carolina. Panic set in. He knew he had to lay low. He spent his days holed up in hotel rooms, reading comics and listening to music, venturing out only at night. Soon, a man named Robert, claiming to be a friend of McKinney's, approached Gantt with a dire warning. People in Charlotte wanted him dead. Fearing for his life, Gantt paid Robert $2,000 for the information and immediately changed hotels, using aliases to avoid detection. However, Gantt still needed money, and his desperation led him to make a crucial mistake. He reached out to Kelly Campbell for help, inadvertently revealing his location. This slip-up tipped off both the gang and the FBI, bringing the chase to a head. Led by Agent Mark Rossi, the FBI swiftly moved in, arresting Gantt in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, on March 1, 1998. Despite his capture, his relationship with Campbell piqued the FBI's interest, raising questions about her deeper involvement. As Gantt was flown back to Charlotte, urgency gripped law enforcement. They needed to round up the rest of the gang before they caught wind of Gantt's arrest. On March 2, 1998, exactly 5 months after the Loomis Fargo heist, the FBI and local police launched a series of coordinated raids. Steve Chambers, lured by a staged break-in at his furniture store, was taken into custody. His wife, Michelle Chambers, despite being sworn to secrecy, was arrested shortly after. Simultaneously, authorities descended on Kelly Campbell's home, seizing an array of suspicious items including credit cards, jewelry, and wads of cash. The dragnet also ensnared Mike McKinney, Eric Payne, and Scott Grant in various locations. In total, the FBI recovered over $1 million in cash and numerous high-end purchases made with stolen money. The Chambers mansion alone yielded $720,000 in cash and 460 items. Among the 21 defendants, 20 pleaded guilty, while only 1 contested the charges. Even Jeffrey Guller, Chambers' attorney, was convicted of money laundering. Further investigations led to the discovery of nearly $10 million hidden in 24 safe deposit boxes linked to Chambers. The stolen funds were uncovered in drawers, shoeboxes, and even one of the original blue barrels from the night of the heist. When the dust settled, Kelly Campbell, having cooperated with authorities, received the lightest sentence of 5 years and 10 months. David Gantt, who once dreamed of a luxurious new life with Campbell, was sentenced to 7 years and 6 months. In February 1999, an auction of over 1,000 items purchased with stolen money drew a crowd of more than 5,000 people, generating around $360,000. Funds ultimately returned to Lloyd's of London, Loomis Fargo's insurer. The aftermath of the heist revealed the gang's lack of foresight. They had been fixated on wealth and luxury, oblivious to the inevitable consequences. Despite his losses, Gantt remained unapologetic, boldly stating that he would do it all over again if given the chance. While the gang faced prison time and crushing financial restitution, their downfall became a testament to the reality that ill-gotten gains never lead to lasting triumph. In the end, the FBI successfully dismantled the Loomis Fargo gang, recovering not only the stolen millions but also every extravagant purchase made with it. Their pursuit of justice proved that no scheme, no matter how well planned, is beyond the reach of the law. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel.